The greatest glory in living lies not in never failing, but in rising every time we fail. A quote from Nelson Mandela. A very good evening to you and welcome to Face the Nation. Our topic of discussion today is the road to reconciliation. Joining us this evening are Mr. Dr. Jehan Pereira, Executive Director of the National Peace Council. Also joining us this evening is Mr. Azad Saleh, leader of the National Unity Front. He was a former provincial councillor as well. Also joining us this evening is Ms. Ambika Satgurunathan, Commissioner of the Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka. And also joining us this evening is Mr. Shamindra Ferdinando, News Editor, The Iden. Let's start off the first round with Dr. Jehan Pereira, Executive Director of the National Peace Council. Have we really progressed? Have we made progress in terms of reconciliation in the country since the 8th of January 2015? Doctor, your time starts now.
Yeah, I think there has been very significant progress because I think people feel a great deal of freedom compared to what they felt in the past. I think the ethnic and religious minorities feel much more secure than they have felt in a long while. And also with regard to the relations that this country has with the international community, that too has improved tremendously. So we see that in the main areas of our lives, that relationships have improved after this new government came to power in January of last year. And I think, and that is what provides the basis for reconciliation, for progress, for arriving at lasting solutions to the problems that we had in the past, to the problems that gave rise to the war and to human rights violations. So I think we have reason to be happy at the present situation. There are many who think that we could be going faster, but we have to also keep in mind that we are a country that experienced many decades of conflict, and now we are on the move forward in the right direction.
Dr. Pereira, moving forward, you said that some believe that we are moving slow. However, the previous regime under Mahinda Rajapaksa also wanted time. Are we really on the track as far as reconciliation is concerned? Do we have a genuine interest? Does this government have a genuine interest to establish reconciliation and bring peace and harmony across the country?
I think the main difference between the last government and the present one is that during the period of the last government, relationships between the ethnic and religious communities deteriorated. There was increased suspicion between the communities. There was fear of the state. I think that has changed a lot today. The relationships between the ethnic and religious communities has improved, and the relationship with the state is also improved. I believe there is a sense of much greater security that the ethnic and religious communities feel at the present time.
Dr. Pereira, you said that the relationship between the international community has significantly improved following the 8th of January 2015. Is this government trying to please the international community?
Well, yes, it is trying to please the international community, but it is for the right reasons. The right reason is that we are a part of the international community. Our government and previous governments have signed on to various commitments, international conventions, to reach international standards, and this government is endeavoring to do that. And it has also yielded us great benefits. I mean, the recent lifting of the EU ban on fisheries, it means a lot for the economic prosperity of this country. So it shows that by following international norms, by becoming part of a global system, that there are also a lot of benefits that this country can obtain, and not only the country but also the people.
Is the international community genuine in their efforts to bring about reconciliation in Sri Lanka? Are they genuine?
I think in respect of Sri Lanka, there is a special interest on the part of the international community to see that Sri Lanka becomes a success story.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pereira, for your thoughts in the first round. I now move on to Mr. Azad Saleh, leader of the National Unity Front. Mr. Saleh, something very interesting happened to you in the year 2013. You were arrested, and subsequent to your arrest, you said that you were a political victim. And here we are in the year 2016. Is political victimization still taking place in the present regime as far as the road to reconciliation is concerned? The time starts now.
Actually speaking, my arrest was totally an unwanted thing which the government did. It was just a mudslinging campaign. Actually speaking, it was a statement that I made in India about the LTT taking into arms, and if the government keep pushing the minority communities to the wall, that there can be an uprising by the other communities also. So just giving them a guideline, just a warning, does not mean that we are trying to go in for terrorism. And that was the reason that I was to be arrested. We moved into court before time, and by that time the DIG CID also had then advised the then Secretary of Defence that we cannot arrest just by a statement like this. He cannot be arrested, so he was asked to shut his mouth and just do what I tell you, was the Secretary of Defence order. And on that orders that they arrested me. And of course they kept me for 8 days. They couldn't find anything, because even the magazine that printed the statement, they did a correction also. Even after that they couldn't do anything. But there was international pressure. I mean, the UN raised this issue, Canadian Prime Minister took up this issue, India, Australia, UK, US, all these countries took up the issue, and that was the pressure that was brought. And then finally they came with a set of affidavits to my hospital and wanted me to sign them. So when I checked, it was just asking forgiveness from the president. I said, go to hell, and I tore all the affidavits, and then and there I wrote one that I have not made any statement to this effect. Only that at one o'clock
we know what happened. We know what happened. Is political victimization taking place now? That's the question.
No, I don't think that is taking place now. If that is taking place, by this time all the Rajapaksas will be inside. Up to now that has not happened, and even the process of arresting people is taking place in the right direction. They are only wanting evidence, documents, everything. I mean, that is why I was, while talking to Faraz also, I was asking, why can't others move into court on matters like whatever they say? Then he says we have to have strong evidence. Of course strong evidence has to come. Now we are also going on that basis. If there is only strong evidence, that we will move into court. Now we saw 2 or 3 people already arrested, and the others have been lined up. Now according to Attorney General, he finds less people in his department. He wants 20 more lawyers to come in, and then he will proceed with the 20 cases, very important ones they have selected. So there are things that have been selected, and the matter will be dealt with. But only thing, as Jehan said, the process people feel is very slow. Even I as a politician feel it is very slow. So we hope that something will happen and justice will prevail.
You spoke about political victimization, and you said that if that is the case, if that is happening right now, many Rajapaksas would be behind bars by now, Mr. Saleh. My question to you is, are there any secret deals happening with the government and those who were holding high positions in the previous regime? Is that something that you suspect?
This is not only a question by you, Samir. Wherever I go, this is a question raised by many people, whether the government is having a deal with the Rajapaksas. This is a question that we have to keep answering, but we feel no. But the procedure has to be, whenever we question, even the president, I was with him today in Polonnaruwa, while coming home also I asked him, is there a situation like this, people are asking us this. So he says, no, there is a procedure to follow. We don't want to haphazardly go and then knock our face somewhere. So let us go step by step, and the Attorney General will advise us accordingly.
Thank you very much, Ms. Saleh. But before moving on to Ms. Ambika Satkuranand, one more question to you, Ms. Saleh. Where do you stand now? You stand with the President or the Prime Minister?
I stand with good governance.
You stand with good governance.
Yeah.
A very good answer, Mr. Saleh. But who provided security for you? Is it good governance that provided security for you? I see you with an individual
Of course. See,
a security guard. Just want to get some clarity on that.
Though we were responsible in bringing this government to power, and at this moment I don't hold any position. That does not keep me like this. I know where to play my cards, so I play it well.
You played well. Whether it's good governance or not, I let the people decide. Play the cards well. Is that good governance? I let the people decide. So moving on to Ms. Ambika Satgurunathan, Commissioner of the Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka. Ms. Satgurunathan, we've seen many international reports being published subsequent to the 8th of January last year. We see many reports coming into play. We saw United Kingdom Human Rights report also coming into play recently, and it very clearly indicates that there still seems to be human rights violations in Sri Lanka. Now you are representing the Human Rights Commission of the country. Do you think that human rights violations are still taking place in the country?
Of course, there are still human rights violations in Sri Lanka, and I think that is quite normal, because if you look at any part of the world, barring perhaps 2 or 3 that you could count on your hand, most others there are violations. So in that sense, yes, there are still continuing violations in Sri Lanka.
Isn't that disturbing?
Yes, it is, but it's also not surprising, because for a country that has emerged from 30 plus years of war, we have a lot to deal with. We have a lack of respect for the rule of law. We have public institutions and monitoring bodies that have been disempowered, that need to be rebuilt. We also have a culture of impunity where people think that they can commit violations or crimes and get away with it. We have lack of capacity in various state institutions. So in that sense, I think it is not surprising.
Not surprising to have human rights violations in the country. Why is it different from the human rights violations that took place before? That is the Mahinda Rajapaksa era. What is the difference?
I think the difference now would be that, as some of the other panelists have also said, is that there is room for freedom of expression and freedom of association, which I believe are the most important freedoms, because even if you don't have the others, if you have freedom of expression and association, you can fight for the others. So I think, as Jehan also mentioned, I think that element of fear is not there, in that people are willing to speak out. And I think that is the key and most important thing. If you have that, then it's possible to agitate, put pressure, etc., for other reforms, rights, etc.
But a violation is a violation, whether it's small or big.
Definitely, undoubtedly.
What have your organization done to prevent and ensure that we arrest this problem?
What are we doing? A variety of things. We are taking complaints from individuals whose rights have been violated. We investigate them, and then we give recommendations to those entities that have violated them, for redress. We also, we have taken positions on things like, for instance, the abolition of the death penalty, the prevention of terrorism acts. Those statements that the Human Rights Commission has made are all in the public domain. They are on our website, and we also try to advise the government on law reform to ensure that whatever Sri Lanka enacts, any law that is enacted, is in line with international standards and norms. Those are some of the things we do.
Sometimes the advice that the Human Rights Commission is giving is taken in a negative light. Why am I saying this, Ambika? The reason is, we saw the police department going to courts and filing a case against your commission, and there is a warrant for you all to appear in courts as well. So the advice that you all give, is it being taken in the right light, or is it negative, or is it positive, or what's happening?
When an individual, not the department, an individual went to court, filed writ action challenging our recommendation in the
Your work, in other
HNDA case. Actually, a friend said that, well, the fact that they have filed actually means that you're being effective, because if they feel that your recommendations are worthless, they're not going to bother to go to court to challenge it. They'll just ignore it. So that's my answer.
Thank you very much. As there's a court case going on with regard to this incident, I'm not going to delve deep into this issue. Thank you very much, Ms. Satyanathan, for your thoughts as well. We now move on to Shamindra Ferdinando, news editor, The Island. Shamindra, you've been quite vocal. In particular, you were featured on the show 2 weeks ago as well. You said NGOs in the country are not doing their job. You are representing the media. You are representing a daily newspaper in the island. Do you still believe so? Reconciliation and NGOs, are they doing their job? The time starts now.
No, actually, a section of the international community during Elam War 4 funded several Sri Lankan NGOs, and their job was to promote national reconciliation. Right? Millions were given to NGOs. But when the war started, not a single NGO at least bothered to issue a statement against the LTT resuming war. But if you go back to the time the Norwegians intervened in Sri Lanka on the invitation of the former UMP regime, government, when the NGOs in Sri Lanka were to support the government and other parties to ensure continuation of the peace process. For that, they received international funding amounting to millions of dollars. At the last program, I pointed out during about 4-year period, they received $28 million US. Right? So they were to promote national reconciliation. But what happened? Even when the LTT held over 300,000 people on the One East front, they refused to issue a statement demanding the LTT at least release the civilians, at least the children. So I believe, as far as the national reconciliation is concerned, the NGOs have failed in this country. We are here today discussing this issue because the previous government defeated the LTT.
Shamindra, I just want to stop you for a second. I'm going to give you time, but I want to throw back this question to Dr. Jahan Pereira. Did the NGOs do their job, Dr. Pereira? Shamindra directly points a finger at NGOs saying, not directly the National Peace Council, but NGOs as a whole. Did they do their job? Are they really genuine with regard to reconciliation?
See, the NGOs stood for and stand for resolving our conflict through political means, through dialogue and through reform. So even during the period of the war and the ceasefire, that would have been the basic position of the NGOs. And with regard to the breakdown of the ceasefire, I cannot imagine that the NGOs were happy that the ceasefire broke down. Now, Shamindra raises the issue of whether the NGOs condemned one side or the other. I cannot remember what my organization said at that time, what we specifically said, but I would believe that we expressed our great distress at the breakdown of the ceasefire, because for us, the ceasefire was very valuable.
Did NGOs make money? I think that's what Shamindra's question was. Did NGOs make money? $28 million US. That's quite a number for a period of 4 years, Dr. Pereira.
Well,
it looks like the Panama Papers when Shamindra mentioned about the...
Actually, the last time I mentioned a certain person, Dr. Kumar Rupasinghe alone received $6 million.
Again, Shamindra,
I take the full responsibility.
Take full responsibility to the names that you are saying.
One person.
This is a network and we do not take responsibility if you mention about any third party. Dr. Pereira, earning money, was that also...
I mean,
in the cards,
$28
as far as
million
NGOs are
would seem a lot of money. But there are hundreds of NGOs, maybe thousands of them. And so I don't know whether Shamindra means a few NGOs got the $28 million or
Less than 30.
there several of them got it.
Yeah.
And NGOs, I mean, we do a lot of public education work. And that public education work that is done we don't charge the people who come for that.
Right.
And
Agreed.
any education work is expensive,
Thank you very much.
especially when it is carried out throughout the country at the district level.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pera. Yes, Shamindra, you can continue. You have 1 minute and 19 seconds, though the clock says 43 seconds.
So,
Yes, go on.
actually, it was the failure on the part of the political parties and the NGOs and the civil society. I will give you an example. People talked about post-war national reconciliation because the previous government was able to defeat the LTT. Right? The Tamil National Alliance, which today they are complaining about accountability, various issues, but it was the Tamil National Alliance which recognized the LTT as the sole representative of the Tamil-speaking people. Right? Now, that was done at the gunpoint. Right? They got all these people to have a press conference in Colombo and to recognize the LTT. No one bothered to issue a statement, at least a statement. Then when in 2005, when the TNA on the orders of the LTT declared that Tamil people should not vote at November 2005 presidential election, no one bothered to issue a statement. They kept quiet. Only Dr. Pakisoti Saravanan condemned that. Only he. Only, no one else. So you can go back, check it, you will see no one has condemned. So the LTT created this war.
Reconciliation, is that really happening in Sri Lanka?
No, I think after defeating the LTT in May 2009, the previous government did a lot. The previous government released over 12,000 LTT cadres and others who had been taken into custody. By the time this Yahapalana government came into power in January 2015, there were less than 300 people, only 300, less than 300. Now, they include hardcore LTT cadres also. So, I think the national reconciliation means that both parties, I think both communities, the Sinhalese and Tamil-speaking people, both communities committed crimes. So, they should take responsibility.
Thank you very much.
Specific crimes.
Thank you very much, Shamindra Ferdinando, for your thoughts as well. I open the floor for questions from our journalists. Joining us this evening is Nadeem Majid. Nadeem, nice to have you on board as usual. Sonali Vanagabaduge, attorney at law and also a journalist. Thank you very much, Sonali, for joining us. Faraz Shaukat Ali, the man with the files, with a book today. Very strange indeed, but nice to have you on board as well, Faraz. Let's start off the second round with Sonali.
Thanks, Sham. Mr. Ferdinando, my first question is to you. It's now before the public domain that the Northern Provincial Council has unanimously passed a resolution to talk about a merger, a possible merger, re-merger between the northern and eastern provinces. This comes in light of the fact that a lot of reconciliation efforts are taking place on the part of the government. How do you view this? What are the political implications of this move?
Mr. Vigneswaran's move was meant to cause chaos. That's why they took a decision that was adopted in Jaffna last Friday, and they will forward it to Mr. Sammandan, and Mr. Sammandan will have to take it up with the government. The SLAP has already rejected it. So, just imagine, they want to re-merge the eastern province with the north. Remember, in October 2006, there was a Supreme Court order. They say it was invalid. So now, it is against the Constitution plus a directive given by the Supreme Court. So I think Mr. Vigneswaran wants to cause a scene, and he's putting pressure on both Yahapalana government and the international community. I think it's time for the Geneva conference in coming June. they are putting pressure on the government, but basically I think the remerger is also an issue which has the support of the TNA also. I spoke to Mr. Sumandiran and he said the TNA too wants the remerger of the Eastern Province with the North. So they will take the stand. So it's up to the government to come to some sort of arrangement with the TNA because see, at the end of the day you will realize when the government tries to do something, they will always create a new situation. So we are always facing a, now see, you take Mr. Wickremesinghe invited the government of Oslo, Norway, they had the ceasefire. So immediately after that, the LTT withdrew from the ceasefire agreement when Mr. Wickremesinghe was the Prime Minister. So similarly, they always have a new scene. So this is the this proposal is meant to put pressure on the government, put pressure on the international community ahead of Geneva. So it's a serious issue.
How do you suppose this can be balanced with the political realities of the South?
I don't think the major political parties, including the JVP, will not accept remerger under any circumstances. It will not happen.
Re-emerging, what are the implications, Dr. Pereira? Why is it bad?
Well, I mean, you know, I would not want to blame Mr. Chief Minister Vigneswaran too much. The idea of the merger of the North and East, that's a long-standing Tamil demand. It was there before Mr. Vigneswaran became Chief Minister. At the present time, the government is going in for constitutional reform. Everything is open now for negotiation. The government is saying the old system is not the best, let's move to something better. So it is entirely understandable to me that the TNA and Mr. Vigneswaran should put forward their request or their proposal for the remerge of the North and East. However, simply because the representatives of one community are asking for something, it does not mean that that is what is going to happen, because that has to be negotiated with the representatives of the other communities and of the government and the political representatives in Parliament. So if they are not agreeable to that, then you find some accommodation. Now, I understand, I mean, the remerger is very controversial because it means that there will be a very large province comprising almost 30% of the land area of the country. So this naturally is a little alarming given the history of the conflict where the North and East was claimed to be a separate Tamil homeland.
So you mean to say that the Chief Minister himself is not representing the political ideologies of the Tamil-speaking people of Sri Lanka?
No, I'm saying he is representing, he's representing what a long-standing Tamil demand, which probably the majority of Tamil people back, they want it. However, I think the Muslim community, the Sinhala community, the government are unlikely to be in favor of it. So basically these are things to be negotiated.
Mr. Sali, where do you stand on
Another, I have to interrupt you for a second here. We'll go in for a short commercial break. It's a time check. It's 10 p.m. Welcome back. This is Face the Nation. Nadim, I'm very sorry for interrupting you. You can go ahead.
Mr. Sali, where do you stand on the remerger of the Northern and Eastern Provincial Councils? I also want you to think of it from the perspective that there is a functioning, some would even say very well functioning provincial council in the Eastern Province. In this backdrop, how do you view the proposal to merge these provinces?
The system of provincial council came into effect in 1982. But it was bought for the purpose of the single solution to the ethnic problem.
87.
87. Then what happened? The entire country got the provincial council and that system was functioning except the north. After 30 years it has come. So it's a new thing to them and they keep on passing resolution over resolution. And believe me, only 10% of the amount of money that was allocated has been used by them. Right? So what they are demanding is, their demand is to put the maximum to the government. Maximum pressure, because they have suffered for 30 years. They want to put that pressure and get something. Now see, from the day Maithripala Sirisena was elected president, there is so much of pressure to release all the land. Can you release all the land at this moment? Most of the lands are constructed, army is occupying, hotels have come up, various other things are already there.
Where do you stand on the idea to merge the two provinces?
No,
there is a functioning Eastern Province. You were a candidate for the Eastern Provincial Council.
Actually speaking, it is the people of the East and North who have to decide on that. The people, the Muslims living there.
Grant a referendum for people in the North and East?
Yes. That will be the most important issue, and that should be the solution. It is the people of the area who has to decide.
Where do you stand on this subject of? Do you think that failure to give people in a specific geographic area the right to self-determination is a violation of human rights?
Well, where the remerger, demerger is concerned, it is a political issue, and I don't think it is appropriate for the Human Rights Commission to comment on that per se, because that is a decision that has to come through negotiation and also public consultation, as it were. But in terms of devolution, power sharing, I think that is something that has been the demand of certain communities, and once again, devolution in other countries, if we look at it, it has been used effectively to address grievances of minority communities. So in that sense, I would say yes, in principle, that that is something that the country should definitely explore. But once again, it's a political issue. So now we have a constitutional reform process, and there is a public representation committee. People have been making submissions, and we have a constitutional assembly. So I think it is through that process that they have to come to a decision. So it would not really be appropriate of me, if I'm representing the Commission, to take a certain position here.
Dr. Pereira, how do you see the timing of this resolution? Shamindra mentioned that we have the UN Human Rights Council sessions in Geneva coming up in June. The Northern Provincial Council also previously adopted a resolution on genocide a couple of months before Geneva. Do you look at it from the point of view of a chess game? Do you think that the Northern Provincial Council is sacrificing the knight to move forward a pawn?
I don't think it has anything to do with Geneva. It may very well have something to do, but my guess is it doesn't. My guess is that this is the time in which all the political parties are meant to put forward their proposals to the Constitutional Assembly for constitutional reform. I doubt whether the fact that the Northern Provincial Council wants merger is going to affect the thinking of the international community. They probably don't understand this at all. Whether there should be merger or demerger is not their interest.
You said political parties, yeah. But the Northern Provincial Council, while the majority of seats are held by one political party, it's a government. It's a government institution. It's an institution of governance. So, how serious is this resolution coming from them? How seriously should the central government take it? We saw the General Secretary of the UNP, Minister Kabir Hashim, saying that we don't take any notice of minor resolutions that come from various places. That was today. But should the government be taking this seriously?
I think, given that the Northern Provincial Council is a democratically elected body with a democratically elected leadership, I think anyone should take what they put forward seriously. But that doesn't mean you accede to it in the way that they want. That is their position, their ideal. But it is not the ideal of other provinces, it is not the ideal of other communities. a government has to, a good society has to balance all this. So I think we should take the Northern Provincial, what they are saying seriously, try to understand what is behind it, and try and see whether we can meet those interests.
Where do you stand
on
a referendum?
Nadim, I need to interrupt you for a second here. First, any questions in the second round? We have 4 minutes left.
Yes, a question for Mr. Saleh, I think this one. You said that there is no political victimization, but the FCID have announced, I think yesterday or today, that they have selected 20 cases. That's being a bit partial, isn't it?
No,
Where's the impartiality?
it's not like that. There are several cases being filed at the FCID, complaints being made. They have selected the most important ones, which are huge and that should be considered. So that they have given priority, and that is why they have made an announcement today that they have taken up 20 cases, and also the Attorney General has informed that he needs 20 more lawyers to handle these cases.
Yes,
so that does not make anybody, it doesn't victimize anybody.
Who do you think helped make the choice of 20 cases? Who chose them?
No, that is up to the police to select. No, you can make a complaint. Whether it is a good complaint or a bad complaint is for the police to decide, not us. So now it is a police commission, and for us, take it very clearly that nobody calls the FCID any longer. Earlier you saw Mahinda Rajapaksa calling the police and giving instruction, you saw Gotabe giving the instruction, you saw Basil giving, you got Nawal giving, but here nobody gives any instruction.
But there is some committee
this
to
is
which
good
they
governance.
report. But isn't there some committee to which they report?
No, it goes straight to the FCID only. Anybody can go, even you can go to the FCID to make a complaint.
Mr. Saleh, the Financial Crimes Investigation Division, established under an extraordinary gazette, reports to a subcommittee of cabinet headed by the Prime Minister.
There you are.
That is right. But others said that the Prime Minister, the President was not. Even last week, there were more powers given to the FCID by the President.
But the FCID, by the law of the gazette, or at least as spelled out by the gazette, reports to a subcommittee of cabinet.
So, see, if there are major crimes, even if it goes to the Prime Minister or a committee and goes, what is the big idea? Ultimately,
the idea is that couldn't there be political victimization if there are politicians involved in running the division?
Any case that will be handled by the FCID, finally it has to go to court, no? See, they are also, the judiciary is independent.
I think the question
we don't have a Mohan Piri sitting there.
The question is, why a subcommittee? Why a subcommittee headed by the Prime Minister?
Why not a select committee of Parliament?
Of course, today you saw even the constitution, the entire parliament has become a constitutional council. So like that, a lot of things are happening now. See, good governance has to start somewhere. Something is happening now. I mean, you saw, though the FCID was started, nobody was victimized.
So sorry, Azad, yes. Because you've just mentioned it. Good governance must start somewhere. Good governance started 4 weeks after they came into power with the central bank bond issue and the appointment of 3 lawyers partial to the UNP. Unlike the N.U. Jayawardena case in 1953, when it was 3 Supreme Court judges that were appointed to look into that matter, and then the governor then had to step down, this is where this Yar Parliament has started.
See, for us, it is always like this. Now, that is your point of view. When I was in the Colombo Municipal Council, there was a member sitting. We contested on a proxy, and somebody was the mayor of Colombo. I allowed it to run for 1.5 years. Then I made a complaint to the chief minister. In return, what he did, it was the government that was running that mayor. What they did, they also appointed a one-man commission. This one-man commission recommended that the council must be dissolved. But the president gave an order not to dissolve the council. What did I do? I in return went to the Supreme Court and got the Colombo Municipal Council dissolved. So likewise, if you feel that the 3-member committee has not done anything more, why don't you move to court? Because today the judiciary is independent. You don't have anybody giving instruction to the police or the judiciary.
But that committee, there's that committee.
Even that committee, nobody is going to interfere. When you go to court, that committee is not going to come before court.
But when you complain to the police, the local policeman doesn't refer your complaint to some committee.
No.
Exactly. So why only at the FCID?
No.
Not at the CID, not at the CCD, only at the FCID.
See, the Prime Minister might be sitting with a committee to see the crimes that have happened in the government. Who is going to make a complaint? So whatever complaints that are coming there, through a committee, they might be selecting and then giving to the FCID. That might be. But end of the day, if you feel that somebody is going to be victimized, he has the right to go to court. Court is open and it is very independent.
First, I think the topic is the road to reconciliation, not corruption. I gave you 5 minutes of our time to discuss about good governance and a bit of corruption, which you are very familiar with the central bank bond issue. We're now going for a short commercial break. We are focusing on reconciliation and how far we have progressed as a nation subsequent to the 8th of January 2015. Stay connected, stay with Face the Nation. Welcome back. This is Face the Nation. We start off the third round with Shamindra Ferdinando, news editor, The Island. Shamindra, words like reconciliation, words like accountability, why did it all start suddenly after 2009? The time starts now.
Because the previous government was able to defeat the LTT. Nobody talk about reconciliation or accountability when the LTT was running the show. That's the truth, right? Now, you see, this book is about the assassination of Jayaraj Fernandes. There Mr. Victor Ivan says that after the war started in 2006, the former president twice sent Mr. Dr. Harsha Navaratna of Seva Lanka along with Jayaraj Fernandes to meet the LTT. The former president tried his best to come to some sort of arrangement with the LTT. But as long as the LTT felt, as long as the diaspora felt, as long as the NGOs and the international community, all these people felt that the LTT could achieve its objectives through military means, they waged war. They waged war. That's the truth. I have a document here. I can show it to you. Even in early part of 2009, February, the LTT was confident of coming to some sort of arrangement with the international community to surrender. They want an honorable surrender, right? So, the people who talk about national reconciliation, the accountability, first of all, they must realize we are discussing all these issues today because Prabhakaran died. As long as he survived, the LTT would never have allowed the government of Sri Lanka or any other political party, Tamil political party, to operate.
Accountability and reconciliation was promised by President Mahinda Rajapaksa to Ban Ki-moon. Two words, two things that was promised to the international community and which were not fulfilled.
Right. Shamir, you must understand the whole thing is based on the allegation that the Sri Lankan army killed over 40,000 Tamil civilians during the final phase of the offensive. Right. This is the Ban Ki-moon report. It says the army killed 40,000 people, over 40,000 people.
Are you referring to the Darusman report?
Yes, right. The Amnesty International says 10,000 killed. Then the British Parliament was told 100,000 people killed within 5 months. So you must realize, first of all, I as a Sri Lankan, I always fully support international investigation with the support of the international community to identify the exact number of Tamil civilians killed during this campaign, right? Because Geneva is based on a lie of that the army killed over 40,000 people. First of all, we have to establish the number of Tamil civilians killed, and I think Jahan and all the NGOs should cooperate and help this government, this Yahapalana government, to find the
Initially, the Defence Secretary said 0 casualties, and then this was reworded saying it was humanitarian operation, civilians may have been killed during the conflict. Probably this is what gave rise to the international community to think otherwise, to come up with numbers, 40,000, 10,000. Whose fault is it?
Actually, Shamir, the Darusman report says this information, this allegation is based on information provided by 2,300 people. 2,300 people, but it says, the same report says this information cannot be checked, verified for 20 years. So how are you going to inquire into these allegations if the lawyers representing the government of Sri Lanka are not allowed to investigate? It's in this book.
Whose fault is it?
No, it's the UN report.
Whose fault is it not investigating the problems that took place during the
No,
final Sri
see,
Lankan conflict?
the UN makes the allegation the Sri Lankan military killed over 40,000 people. They say that information is based on information provided by 2,300 people.
Shamindra, let me interrupt you for a second here. Do you think an investigation is needed, yes or no?
Certainly, with the backing of the international community.
With the backing of the international community. Thank you very much, Shamindra, for your thoughts. I now move on to Dr. Jehan Pereira, Executive Director of the National Peace Council. Dr. Pereira, very interesting. An international investigation is needed in Sri Lanka. What has this government done to move towards this? This is what was promised by the government by co-sponsoring a resolution in September with the United States as well as United Kingdom and several other countries. What has this government done so far?
Well, at the moment what the government is doing is that its agencies are, I think, preparing the mechanisms, the 4 mechanisms that the government spoke of in Geneva. And the 4 mechanisms are a truth-seeking commission, accountability mechanism, a judicial accountability mechanism, an office of missing persons, and an office of reparations. I believe the government is working on it, but it is still not, this has still not come to light. It's not been public, made public. Because the government is also, prior to coming public with it, it also wants to consult the people. And so the government has appointed a consultation task force led by civil society activists to engage in a nationwide consultation with people to find out what the people of all communities think about what the government has promised.
So you mean to say, Dr. Pereira, the government promised something to the international community without knowing what the public actually wants? Is that why we have a consultative process in the country?
Yes, the government agreed in terms of the Geneva resolution.
Is that what the people wanted, Dr. Pereira? You said that you have a lot of programs across the country, you spend a lot of money educating the public. Is this what the people wanted?
Well, you know, when I go to the people and talk to them and explain what happened in our country, that it is important to know what happened, it is important to know the truth. Shamindra himself says that it's important to know the truth, and even to the extent of having international participation in finding out what happened in the past, it is important. It is also important that when you find the truth, that people should, if people did criminal acts, if they violated laws, they should be held accountable, and that victims should be compensated, and that steps should be taken to prevent a recurrence of what happened in the past. Those are basic international norms. It is what any good society should do. So the government, in proposing to in Geneva that these fourfold mechanism, went on that basis.
Now my question to you is, Dr. Pereira, very simple. In September we co-sponsored a resolution. Do you agree? You do. We co-sponsored a resolution. Now we have 4 commissions that you said, a truth-seeking commission, an accountability mechanism, an office of the missing persons, as well as reparation need to be established. Now the government goes around the country to ask the public's opinion. Did the public really want this resolution? Or was it signed and co-sponsored on the whim and fancy of the government?
You know, I mean,
your silence does not give me an answer.
No, because the government's response was based on international practice. What other countries have done.
Let's say the people, this consultative committee finds out that the people do not want these 4 mechanisms. Then what happens?
Then the government, I believe what the government should do is to persuade the people, launch a campaign and persuade the people that what is good for the country, what is right, what other countries have done in situations of mass violations of human rights when coming out of a war, that process needs to be followed in this country. The government has to then champion it with the people. Otherwise, we will not be able to get to reconciliation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pereira, for your thoughts. I now move on to Mr. Azad Saleh, leader of the National Unity Front. Persuading the public. Can the government really do this?
Yeah, can I,
Yes.
before that, can I just
Yes, Mr.
give a reply to what Shamindra said? Shamindra was talking about the 2005 election and the number of people killed. I think what Mr. Wickramasinghe was doing up to 2004 was a ceasefire with the LTT and not allowing anybody to die. A peaceful political solution was the motive of the then government. But today, Mr. Rajapaksa was elected, but none other than the LTT. The LTT that elected Mr. Rajapaksa as the president of this country in 2005. That everybody knows. Because how the transaction took place, everything has been exposed by now. And the whole country knows how the Rajapaksas went into the north, how they met with LTT leaders, how they gave the money, asking them not to allow anybody to vote. By that Mr. Rajapaksa was elected to power. That is a known thing. So if not, this 100,000 people might be the soldiers, might be the LTT, the civilians. All of these people would have not died, and there would have been a very good solution to the country. Today, all of us are struggling is to bring reconciliation. So now, at least now, we will not forget the war, but let us now put everybody together to see that some sort of settlement is there. That is why when I said the TNA is also asking for the maximum, is they know that they won't get everything. They want to put the demand so big so that they will get a little. Now they, even if you see, even the housing, even the land, all that they are asking is release everything. But can we release everything at the same time? No. So government is doing step by step. Political prisoners, yes, step by step. Land release step by step. Like that, this proposal also, not only the TNA, all the other parties are going to put forward this proposal. Everybody is going to sit and talk, and then final, the country will come into a situation which is going to be accepted by all. That is why that is where the solution to the problem is going to be. So all what we say is the period of time, the time of parliament is 5 years. Within these 5 years it has to happen, and now things are not happening that fast. That is why we want everybody to go fast, so that at least when the 5th year comes, the Sri Lanka will have a solution to the problem. If not, you again either you get the extremists to come and work on this against this, and then get a government to topple, and then you come out with another big problem. So,
Mr. I'm going to give you 30 seconds more to elaborate on the point that I brought forward.
Yes.
Persuading the public.
Persuading the public, as Jehan said, it has to be done. Now, if the government feels that the masses are not with you on the views that are put, you have to educate them. You have to educate them. Now, that is why the NGOs are for. If Shamindra is saying $28 million have been got, and the Shamindra can expose who these people are.
We have already exposed that.
Right. So we have exposed. So how the government can intervene, collect where the money is, and take this money out from them, and see that all these groups go out. They can divide it among the NGOs to go and educate the people on reconciliation.
Misal, you've contested elections over the years. You've contested the Kalam Municipal Council, Eastern Provincial Council, the Central Provincial Council. Is it easy to persuade the public to believe otherwise in a country like Sri Lanka?
Why not? See, if you take the number of people in parliament, is half the members of parliament worth being in parliament? He has convinced the masses to vote for him now. What sort of characters we have in parliament? What sort of characters we have in provincial council and the local governments? How did he come into that position? Because he persuaded the people. The people blindly went and voted for him. See, it is unless our people, educate themselves on voting, the same lot of people are going to be in parliament and provincial council and the other.
So you mean to say that mislead the public again?
Exactly.
Mislead the public again?
Of course.
On what? On reconciliation?
Not reconciliation, on voting these people. Like that is what I am saying now.
No, I mean persuading the people to believe something else.
No, what I am trying to say is,
you mean to say
people's persuasion, on coming to Parliament I was talking to you.
Right.
On this, as Jehan said, you have to educate them. You have to tell them this is the right thing, this is the international community requirement, this is our requirement, this is for reconciliation. What do you want? People will decide.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sali, for your thoughts. I now move on to Ms. Ambika Satgurunathan, Commissioner of the Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka. Political prisoners, two words that Mr. Sali said during his remarks now. Do we have political prisoners in Sri Lanka? I hear that the Human Rights Commission now visits a lot of camps, a lot of institutes. Do you in any way believe that we have political prisoners in Sri Lanka?
We have people who have been detained under national security laws. So that is, we used to have the emergency regulations, and now we have the Prevention of Terrorism Act. So we do have a lot of people, I mean, we have a number of people who are detained under that particular law, yes.
So we do have political prisoners in Sri Lanka?
We have people detained under the national security laws.
Do we have political prisoners in Sri Lanka?
How are we going to do this back and forth? We have people who have been suspected of engaging in acts of terrorism against the state. And
you have a master's in law as well. You can be a bit more precise, Ms. Satgurunathan.
I am being very precise, actually. I'm being very technical.
Do we have political prisoners in Sri Lanka?
We have people who are detained under national security laws. I can't get more precise than that because that is the technical term.
You spoke about having a consultative process as far as the country's constitution is concerned. Do you think that the 20 million people in Sri Lanka are aware about this consultative process that is taking place right now about the country's constitution?
We have that process as well as the process that Jehan talked about, which is on transitional justice. And just if I could respond to something that he said and your question about why is the government having a consultative process now, because this is also quite common. If you look globally, a consultative process with the public is very common to ascertain what it is that they want. And the reality is, and has been shown in many other countries, that a portion of the public will likely say that they don't want certain things, and a portion of the public will say that they want, you know, reparations, truth, justice, everything. So I think the task of the state in that instance is to negotiate, to raise awareness, and to come to some sort of a happy medium, as it were. But consultations are very important because that is the only way in which the victims can actually voice their needs and concerns, because their voices have been silenced.
Let's say I am from Kabitagol. Let's say Nadim is from Babunia.
Yep.
Let's say Sunal is from Kilnochi. Let's say Faraz is from the rural areas of Batiklo. How can I participate? How can we participate in this consultative process?
Well, as far as I know, there is a national task force that has been set up to engage in consultations on transitional justice. And as far as I know, they will also be setting up district kind of committees which will actually conduct these consultations at the district level to basically tell people what it is on offer and ask them what is it. They have not actually started, I don't think, but yeah.
Let's say I am illiterate. I don't read or write, but I have a lot of views to express. I don't watch television, or nor do I watch radio. How do I participate in this process?
Yes, that is a very good question, and perhaps should also be posed to the task force, because it is their task to actually engage in public awareness campaigns.
Let's say this process goes ahead, and I, being the literate person, comes and lodges a complaint at the Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka saying that my rights were violated because I was not consulted. Then what will you all do?
Then what will we do? We will, of course, talk to the task force and whoever is conducting this, and try to make recommendations to actually ensure that there is larger participation ensured. But the fact is this, Shamir, is that this is it's not an easy process. And also, if you want to do consultations all over the countries with all communities, all victims, stakeholders, a few months is also not enough. But then you can't delay too long in these processes either. So the reality is you're not going to get a perfect process, but you should try your utmost to ensure it is as inclusive as possible.
The Human Rights Commission will tell this person, that's me, there is no point of crying over spilt milk because we've done it all by now. so you might have to go home now.
Well, if the entire process is over, then of course, we have little recourse. But if the process is ongoing, then naturally we will intervene.
What is the civil society doing? What is the government doing about this consultative process? Again, a question to you at home. Have you been reached? Are you aware? Okay, let's start off the fourth round with Faraz Shawkar. Faraz, reconciliation is the topic. I'm reminding you the topic again. Let's start with you.
I mean, on this road to reconciliation, we could have done with a bit more money in the bond and all that. But anyway, you said that there were no statements from the NGOs during the war years. And do you get the feeling, are they all banding together?
Yeah, now see, now Jahan pointed out that there was a need for the government to persuade the people. Now, as soon as you said there was a need to persuade the people, the international community will start funding, right? Now, there will be another round of funding. Similarly, we will never find out the number of people, the real names or the addresses of the people, those who were consulted. We will never know. Now, this report says those who made allegations that the Sri Lankan army killed 40,000 people, we will not get their names for 20 years until 2031, right? So we have a set of people, very clearly they are making reports, they are making allegations, and in the process the national security is undermined. As far as we know, I'm just responding to the Human Rights Commission, there are no political prisoners in this country. The Justice Minister, Dr. Vijaydas Rajapaksa, the Prime Minister, Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, both very clearly said, no political prisoners. No political prisoners. So, we go by the statements made by the PM and the Justice Minister.
Do you think there are political prisoners? Do you think there are political prisoners?
Certainly not. But of course,
I'll put it this way, Shamindra. Do you think that there are people? Shamindra, do you think that there are people in Sri Lanka who are in a prison cell at this moment because of political ideologies that they believe in?
No.
No.
Not now.
A blanket no. Not now.
Not now, because I feel that Mr. Saleh was harassed. Right.
Do you feel that there were people who might have been harassed because of their political ideology?
General Fonseca, he was harassed.
So aren't they technically political prisoners?
You must know, see, he was the war-winning army commander. The previous government made a huge mistake, right, by harassing him. But see, the Tamil National Alliance, which also says that the Sri Lankan army killed over 40,000 people, requests the Tamil people of North to vote for General Fonseca. Right? That's the truth. Right? So now today we are talking about national reconciliation years after the Tamil people of North and East and Noreli and Muskeli and Bandarwela voted for General Fonseca.
You're the war-winning army command. It's a political chess game where the facts don't really matter.
See, I tell you one thing very clearly. The Tamil people are happy. The entity got destroyed. Right? Those who are shedding crocodile tears today, I challenge them to show a single press release issued by them requesting the LTT to release child soldiers. Just one statement.
Ambika, there's a lot of our panelists have been talking about investigations. Shamindra said there's a need for an investigation with international backing to determine how many people were exactly killed during the conflict or during the last stages of the conflict. Isn't the Human Rights Commission, by virtue of the act under which it was established, mandated to investigate?
Mandated to investigate the alleged violations of human rights and
alleged violations of human rights
that took place during the last stage of the war?
We've seen the Human Rights Commission, at least in the media we hear about it usually when someone goes there and files a complaint. Don't you think that the Human Rights Commission also has an obligation to take the initiative to conduct investigations into incidents like the final stages of the conflict, or isolated incidents, or the final stages as a whole? Don't you think the Human Rights Commission, by virtue of the act under which it was established, has a mandate to conduct an investigation?
Well, as we know, the government did co-sponsor a resolution, and the resolution requires the government to do certain things, and they have already started that process. So in that sense, for the Human Rights Commission to now start a parallel process, I don't know how practical or useful that would be, because also the state as a whole, when it does that, would have more resources, more personnel, etc. So, but in terms of other violations, yes, over the years, the Human Rights Commission has, for instance, received many complaints related to disappearances, related to extrajudicial killings, related to arbitrary detention, all of which are issues that are also related to the conflict.
How much progress has the Commission made? Has there been any investigation carried out by the Commission with regard to these complaints that they've received regarding missing persons?
Yes. So now, in the past 6 months since we have been appointed, we haven't actually initiated any large-scale investigations, as all of you know. But the previous commissions have actually conducted a number of such investigations, and there are also reports that have identified certain patterns, etc., in relation to disappearances. And what we also hope to do is to share these reports, even though they might be old, with the public in the coming.
Who reviews the progress that the Human Rights Commission is making? For example, if we are in the private sector, it's say I'm doing a job, I have to go through a performance appraisal once a year. Does the Human Rights Commission have such a progress review mechanism in place? Is it the Constitutional Council that reviews the progress that is being made by the Commission?
Don't.
Because we're talking about accountability.
Of course.
How is the Human Rights Commission being held accountable?
Okay, we don't have a formal progress review methodology as such, and I don't think many institutions, state institutions in this country do, and perhaps that would be a good idea. I am not actually refuting that it's not, but where the Human Rights Commission is concerned, and I think I said during a previous conversation with you, is that we also hope to be very transparent, so entirely open to the public or to the media actually holding us accountable. If you feel that we have not done something, we should be doing something, or we have done something wrong, then entirely open to receiving those from the public as well as from anyone else.
Dr. Pereira, we were talking about, just one second.
Yes,
Dr. Pereira, we were talking about the consultative process that is underway. Shamir was questioning the reach of these commissions that have been appointed, whether they are actually reaching out to people, whether the average citizen is aware of these consultative processes and participating in these processes. My question is this: what's the point of consulting now? You've already made your pledges in the resolution that was adopted in Geneva. You've already pledged a compassionate council, office for reparations, disappearances. You've already said that all of this is going to happen. You've told the powers that be in the world, or at least at the UN Human Rights Council, that you are going to do this, this and this. Can you change it now if your people during this consultative process tell you otherwise?
See, as far as we are aware, what the government has pledged to the international community is the outline of the mechanisms. It has said that there will be a truth-seeking commission, but as far as we know, it has not said for what duration. Is this commission going to look at the truth in the last 6 months of the war, or the last 5 years of the war, or the 30 years of the conflict?
So the public don't get a say on whether there should be a truth-seeking commission or not.
No,
they only get to determine
not on that, because
they only get to determine the time period which that commission will review.
Yes, because a truth-seeking commission is part of an internationally accepted model of dealing with the past, of dealing with a post-war situation. So those are international standards. What the government has proposed...
We had the lessons... interrupt you for a second. Sonali, yes, go ahead.
Dr. Pereira, going forward, we are a country trying to move forward from the post-conflict mentality to development hub, tourist haven, and rightly so. But how realistic is this, given the fact that more needs to be done towards healing the hearts and minds of a wounded citizenry?
Yes, I think it's said that a house divided within itself cannot stand. So we have to unite within ourselves.
But how? What are the practical mechanisms that can be brought in addition to the mechanisms that have already been spoken of at this forum itself?
Yeah, I mean, basically...
How can the NGOs also contribute?
Yeah, the way forward is to go through what's called the process of transitional justice, which is ascertaining the truth, ensuring accountability, providing reparations, and engaging in political reform, institution building. That is the way forward to reconciliation. That is the tried and tested international method accepted by the United Nations, and it is accepted by the United Nations on the basis of the experience of many other countries. That is what we are going to be following.
So with your permission, I want to pose the same question to Mr. Salih, who is standing with good governance. Does the government really have a political will to solve the problems of the people?
Of course. That is what we have been doing. This 1 year we have done so much, which is
1.5 years.
1 year, 5 months, 4 months. Now you can see all of you all functioning without a problem. No stations were attacked. No media, Shamindra and them are all safe. No newspaper office was attacked. No journalists have been murdered on the road. Nobody has been attacked by a grenade. No white van has come and taken you all. So this is what the people wanted. Today you have got that. Actually speaking, what people feel is that they are very, very happy. At least they can sleep well. Earlier you don't sleep. You always, you don't know what time a van will come, what time you will be taken, all sorts of things. But today you have that peace. So that mind, people are very, very happy.
Mr. Pereira, I have a question for you. Your organization, the National Peace Council, works a lot, according to you, in Sri Lanka to build peace and to bring reconciliation in the country. Agreed or disagreed?
Yes,
you all do a lot of work. Mr. Pereira, Dr. Pereira, why is your organization so silent about the human rights violations taking place elsewhere in the world? Let's, for an example, take Iraq. Let's take Afghanistan. Is it because powerful nations that back your organizations or back organizations like NGOs in Sri Lanka? Why are they silent about human rights violations elsewhere in the world?
See, I mean, if we were to comment about what's happening in other parts of the world, then we have to develop an expertise in international affairs. Our expertise, our concern is our own country. We are not an international organization. Our people, our staff don't travel the world to find out what's happening. We don't have funds for that.
However, international organizations don't travel the world either. They get reports from the media. They get reports from little institutes that have been established in the country, like the UK. Obviously did not visit Sri Lanka to find out what is happening, but they filed a report on Sri Lanka's human rights record. You didn't have Darusman coming to Sri Lanka and filing a report. They did it from New York. Your organization, why are you all silent? I mean, because you all get the backing of the international community?
No, I mean, it's not as if human rights violations are only happening in one part of the world. They're happening in Africa, in China. We don't comment on what's happening in those countries either. Those are not donor countries.
Let's keep the National Peace Council aside. Why is the United Nations silent about the human rights violations that are taking place in these countries? Why is the UN silent?
I don't think the UN is silent. I mean,
when was the last time you heard that the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva spoke about the violations in Afghanistan, killing a president of Iraq, and then saying later, you had the Prime Minister of England saying later, I am terribly sorry for what happened in Iraq. Isn't that a human rights violation? What happened in Libya? The biggest mistake according to many individuals, many state leaders. Isn't this a violation? Isn't this a concern? Why Sri Lanka, this island nation? Let us be. Why?
May I respond?
Yes, you may. you may, yes.
In terms of why isn't the UN saying anything, I think if you look at, for instance, the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, recently the High Commissioner spoke about laws that are being passed in Thailand. He commented on that. The Office of the High Commissioner has also, I think, commented on drone attacks. There are various other UN special rapporteurs, like on torture, who have commented on torture in American prisons. So I think it is slightly unfair to say that the UN has been silent, because the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights has not been silent.
The Office of the High Commissioner of Human Rights, because you raised this issue up, Ambika, you say that the Office of the Human Rights High Commission is silent, but tell me an instant in which Prince Zaid Al Hussein told Barack Obama, stop the drone attacks, stop what is going on in Iraq, stop what is going on in Afghanistan. When has he said?
I think, I don't know whether he kind of directly said stop what's going on, but I do know that they have been critical of the drone attacks. What is happening in Syria, the High Commissioner has been vocal on that. And as I said, in different instances, they have actually...
The sovereignty of a country, territorial integrity is very important. We saw US forces going to Pakistan and killing a world terrorist leader. Again, no offense, it has to happen. However, going to another country and launching an attack, a military attack on the soil of another country. Where is the investigation to this? Isn't that violating territorial integrity, Ambika?
You're asking why isn't the UN responding? I cannot...
Absolutely. You just spoke on behalf of the UN, so
not
sure
on behalf. I was not speaking on behalf of the UN. I was merely pointing out the instances in which the UN has not been silent. So I cannot.
But they're very selective, I guess.
I think that would be slightly unfair. They perhaps don't speak out at every instance.
Let's say Sri Lanka goes and launches an attack in the US. What will happen next?
I'm sorry?
Let's say Sri Lanka goes and launches an attack in the US. What will happen to this country?
You expect
okay, thank you very much for that response. Yes, Shamindra, Nadim, I'll give you an opportunity.
Actually, Shamir, what's happening here is when you want to destabilize a country, you always find certain elements working in that country. Now, there are plenty of people in this country who are working against this country, right? As long as, now see, as an example, the British High Commission demands that we should complete this investigation soon. You say that we cannot delay, right? But when you talk about that, when you compare it with the Chilcot inquiry, the UK invaded Iraq without UN permission. The UK and US and UK got together and invaded. Up to now, they have not released that report. They are keeping it. While keeping their report, they are demanding us to release our report. And we have a Deputy High Commission here.
Nadim, again, I'll give you an opportunity to ask a question before we wrap up, Nadim. But I have a question for Ms. Sali. I don't think that I'm going to let you go as well, Ms. Sali, on this. A lot of Muslim countries, you speak a lot for the minorities in Sri Lanka. However, you were silent too, probably because you got some letters from the UK and the US, as you said before, condemning your arrest as well. Is that why you are silent?
No, I have always said, in case of Iraq and Libya, the United Nations played a double standard. It's very straight. See, as you say, they were always interested in small countries and not big countries. They always had a feeling for them. Because they never, up to today, have not condemned the murder of Saddam Hussein. They have not condemned the murder of Colonel Gaddafi. This has to happen. And as you say, how did they come into Pakistan and attack another? Terrorist is terrorist. Let it be a Muslim, Sinhala, Tamil or anybody. Terrorist or extremist is an extremist. But how did they come? Where is the inquiry? No reply.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Dr. Pereira, a quick question to you. I think we need to clarify this because you said that what's being done at the Human Rights Council with regard to Sri Lanka is accepted practice, accepted standard, accepted procedure. But in reality, it is quite a unique case, isn't it? With Sri Lanka at the Human Rights Council, the sort of intervention that is being proposed has not been proposed before with regard to a single state. Resolutions have been adopted broadly encompassing all nations, but to have such an intrusive resolution into one single nation, that has not happened before at the UN Human Rights Council, has it? Because we've seen how such resolutions have been struck down in the past, in the case of Israel, for example, and the Gaza war, where evidence of human rights violations was widespread. I mean, we saw it on the media, ambulances being bombed, the director of the UN Relief and Works Agency in tears over the killing of children. Why is the UN Human Rights Council, isn't the UN Human Rights Council being selective in focusing on Sri Lanka? How can you say that it is accepted standard and accepted procedure when there is no example of such an intrusive resolution regarding a single state?
Well, I'm not so sure, because countries like Indonesia, where there was the East Timor problem and East Timor finally separated itself out, the UN got involved in that, and the Indonesian government was persuaded or compelled to set up a truth commission there too, which didn't function that well, but so did East Timor. They too set up a truth commission, and that was more successful. So I don't think it is only Sri Lanka that has been subjected to this type of human rights council resolutions, but maybe, as you said, there was a focused interest in Sri Lanka, which probably was also due to the fact that the last phase of our war was extremely dramatic. I think nowhere in the world was there a situation where 300,000 people were being held hostage.
Dr. Pereira, the Gaza war is pretty much a similar situation. Million plus people cornered into a small strip of land and facing airstrikes.
Yeah, but I think
and a ground invasion.
In our case,
is that not extremely dramatic?
No, that is also, and I believe that the UN has passed resolutions. There have been UN fact-finding missions, which then have been contested by Israel, which have come out with conclusions that the Israeli government didn't like, and they have been contested, and then they have been reversed. But the resolution at the Human Rights Council was struck down.
This round has to end at some point, so we have to stop it as far as the questioning is concerned. Faraz, do you have a question? I'll give you 30 seconds if you have.
I just want to make the point that out of these 300,000 people that you say were used as a human shield, the Sri Lankan army was responsible to saving most of them.
Thank you very much, Faraz, for your thoughts as well, and joining us this evening. We're going for a short commercial break, but a bit of food for thought as far as what I gathered from this round. Dr. Pereira said that the UN High Commission in Geneva has in fact had resolutions on Indonesia and several other countries. However, when was the last time they had a resolution against the 5 veto powers? The United States, the United Kingdom, Russia, China and France. We're going for a short commercial break. When we come back, it's the final round. Welcome back. This is Face the Nation. We are in the final round. We've already passed our time. My producer is saying that we need to wrap up very fast. Yes, Priyanka, we will wrap up very fast as soon as we finish the final round. Let's start off with Ms. Ambika Satguranathan, the commissioner of one of the commissioners of the Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka. What is the way forward in terms of reconciliation in Sri Lanka? What is the way forward?
What is the way forward? Way forward is one is to listen to the voices and the aspirations of the people. So in that sense, I think the public consultations are a good idea. And I think to acknowledge that different sections of society will demand certain things. For some, they want justice, they want truth, they want reparations, whereas others might say non-recurrence is only what is required. But I think it is important through these processes to also look at a lot of historical grievances that exist, and also structural reform.
Thank you very much, Ms. Satguranathan, for your thoughts as well. Structural reforms, can we really do it, is the question. We now move on to Mr. Shamendra Ferdinando, news editor of The Island. Mr. Ferdinando, what changes must we do to the political structure of Sri Lanka in order to achieve reconciliation?
No, I think, Shamir, it has the political structure, just leave it out. I think first of all, they have to establish the number of people killed. I think that is the main thing, because as long as the ordinary Tamil people believe that the Sri Lankan army killed over 40,000 people, they will have issue. So I believe with the support of the international community, they should investigate and find out the number of people who were really killed, the number of people, the civilians, and the number of tigers killed. That is number one. And if you talk about accountability, we should also ask about India. Now, the UN did nothing. UN did nothing when India intervened in this country, set up terrorist organizations. Some of those terrorist organizations are now, today, they are in the Northern Provincial Council, 3 of them. Right. So if you are talking about accountability, all those who contributed to this situation, all those who caused destruction here should be punished.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ferdinando, for your thoughts as well. I now move on to Dr. Jehan Pereira, Executive Director of the National Peace Council. Dr. Pereira, this government, what is its commitment towards the people of the country in terms of reconciliation? Your time starts now.
I think this government's commitment is to be fair by all people. It is to make all people feel safe. I think that is the most important thing. And it is to give civil society the space to build trust and engagement between the communities. And I think that we are doing this not because the international community is pressurizing us, but because our government realizes that unless we are united and we heal the wounds of the past, we cannot go forward.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jehan Pereira, for your thoughts as well. And I'll move on to Mr. Azad Salih, leader of the National Unity Front. Dr. Salih, I'm posing this question to you because in my opening question you said you are not either standing with the President or the Prime Minister, but you're standing with good governance. What is your message to the government?
The message to the government is, now since the promise to the people of good governance, all the commissions have been appointed. Now the last, as I said, if you see the IGP's appointment, the President, being the authority of appointment, gave that to the Constitutional Council, and the Constitutional Council decided who the next IGP is. Likewise, all the commissions that we promised have been today set up. Everything is going smooth. Now, only thing that is lacking is, as you say, the reconciliation. Now, these two, you have to have a time framework. The government will have to have a time framework and get the opinion of all political parties within a spare of time and say that this is the last, and then we come to a conclusion, and this is what is needed to the people, must be put forward to the people early as possible. You can't be delaying in this process. And also, the biggest question that we face, as you said, key denekku arrest karala tiyanawa, horun key denek hallala tiyanawa. This is a question being asked every time wherever we go. So the government will have to have a formality, how they want to do this, and must show results, because people are thinking that there is something the government and the Rajapaksas have to do with this. So that name has to be cleared by the Prime Minister. And now you can see one thing happening. Now when you take the question of President came as a presidential candidate, not an SLP, as an independent person.
Thank you very much.
After he was elected to power, 29 ministers, MPs goes to him and say, please take over the SLP.
Thank you very much.
With the blessings of Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa. Today, Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa is now going to split that party also.
Thank you very much.
Right? So this is the situation. That is where the problem is. Now the whole country is getting united, but the Rajapaksas are trying to divide the country.
Thank you very much, Ms. Salih. Probably you may be the only one standing for good governance, getting security from the government. Thank you very much for your thoughts as well. One thing is clear. Reconciliation will take time. However, there has to be a genuine interest by the government to bring in reconciliation and ensure that the people of this nation feel secure. Thank you very much, Dr. Jahan Pereira, for joining us this evening, Mr. Azad Sali, as well as Ms. Ambika Satpurnathan, and thank you very much, Shaminder, for joining us this evening as well. Thanks a lot, Faraz. Thank you very much, Sonali, and thanks a lot, Nadeem, for joining us as well. It's a pleasure to have the three of you in the company of an August Assembly. Thanks again, gentlemen. I leave you tonight with a quote. I'm rereading a quote by the great Nelson Mandela without any offense to him. He said, "When the history of our time is written, will we be remembered as a generation that turned our backs in a moment of crisis? Or will it be recorded that we did the right thing? Are we doing the right thing?" The question for you. Take care and good night.